What if the person you trusted the most, the one person you vowed to spend your life with, turned out to be the very one plotting your end? What would you do if the one person you loved was planning your murder, and all for the sake of money and a life of luxury? Imagine a world where the life you're living, the very relationship you've built, is nothing more than a lie. A world where your spouse, the person you thought you knew better than anyone, sees you as an obstacle rather than a partner. Would you even suspect that your life was on the line? Michael Dippolito, a man trying to move past his troubled past, thought he was starting over. He thought his marriage was the fresh start he needed. Little did he know, his future was hanging by a thread that would soon be cut by someone he loved and trusted more than anyone else, his wife, Dalia. In 2009, Dalia Dippolito, a woman with a hidden past, set in motion a plot that would shock the world. What seemed like a normal, even romantic marriage was, in reality, a carefully constructed ruse. Behind closed doors, Dalia was making plans for her husband's death. She had a vision of a different life, one with money, power, and freedom, and Michael was just in the way. But what happens when your dark plans are exposed, when the very thing you thought you had under control falls apart right before your eyes? As we unravel the truth behind Dalia Dippolito's deadly intentions, we will explore the chilling depths of her mindset, how she attempted to orchestrate the unthinkable, and how the truth about her sinister plot came to light in the most unexpected way. This is a story of greed, deception, and betrayal, a tale that will leave you questioning how far someone can go for wealth and a life of luxury. But before we dive deeper into this shocking case, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. You don't want to miss what's coming next. This is only the beginning. At the heart of this story is Michael Dippolito, a man whose life was defined by second chances. Michael was 36 years old, a man who had served time for fraud in the past but was desperately trying to rebuild his life. He wasn't perfect, far from it. Michael had made mistakes, big ones, but he had paid for them. He was a man who had learned from his errors and was now focused on finding redemption. Before his life took this shocking turn, Michael had been living a relatively quiet existence in Boynton Beach, Florida. He was trying to create something stable. He had fallen in love with Dalia, a woman who seemed to be everything he wanted. They married in 2009, and for a time, Michael believed that this was his chance to have the life he had always dreamed of. A life without the mistakes of his past holding him back. But what he didn't know was that his new beginning would soon be overshadowed by the very person he trusted the most. On the surface, everything appeared to be normal. The couple seemed happy. Michael was working on rebuilding his financial situation, and Dalia, his wife, appeared to be his supportive partner. But things were not as they seemed. There was an underlying tension in their marriage. Michael had been open about his past and was working hard to leave it behind, but Dalia, she wasn't satisfied with their life. She wanted more, much more. Dalia's frustration with their financial struggles and her dissatisfaction with their lifestyle was starting to show. She grew restless, wanting a life of luxury, comfort, and status. For Michael, it was a period of hope, of believing that he could overcome the shadows of his past and build a future with the woman he loved. He believed that together, they could make it through anything. But that belief was about to be shattered. Their relationship, which seemed loving on the surface, was deteriorating behind closed doors. Dalia was becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the pace of their life. Michael, with all his efforts to turn things around, was no longer enough. He wasn't wealthy enough, he wasn't successful enough, and for Dalia, that was unacceptable. She had dreams of grandeur, of a life far more glamorous than the one they were living. And when that dream collided with reality, Dalia saw only one way out: get rid of the man who stood between her and her desires. This wasn't just a random act of violence. It was a calculated move. A step taken by a woman who no longer saw her husband as a partner but as a hindrance. Dalia's motives were clear. She wanted a life of luxury, and Michael was in the way. Now, as we dive deeper into the case, we'll learn about the woman behind this shocking crime. But first, let's take a closer look at the mind of the one who orchestrated it all, Dalia Dippolito. Dalia Dippolito was no stranger to a life of chaos and control. At just 26 years old, she was a woman with a hidden past, one that wasn't exactly as glamorous as she had portrayed. Before meeting Michael, Dalia's life had been a series of tumultuous relationships and troubled choices. She was a former escort, someone who had used her looks and charm to survive, often making decisions that placed her in morally gray areas. It was this world, the one of high-stakes games and fleeting luxuries, that shaped Dalia into the person she would eventually become. When Dalia met Michael, she saw an opportunity. He wasn't wealthy, but he had the potential to provide a comfortable life, a life that she could mold to her expectations. Michael's past didn't matter to her. What mattered was what he could give her now. She could already sense that he was a man trying to build a future, and for Dalia, this was the perfect starting point. But as their relationship progressed, something dark began to take shape beneath the surface. Despite being married to Michael, Dalia's dissatisfaction grew. She was never content with their humble lifestyle. She wanted more. She wanted wealth, status, freedom. And when that elusive life seemed just out of reach, Dalia began to feel trapped in her marriage. What she once saw as a partnership became a gilded cage. Michael, who was constantly trying to make ends meet and rebuild from his past, was no longer enough to fulfill her desires. The life they were building wasn't enough. It wasn't the life Dalia had imagined for herself. It was here, in the midst of her frustration and growing greed, that Dalia made a chilling decision. She began to view her husband as a barrier. Michael wasn't the loving partner she had once imagined. He was now the obstacle between her and the life she dreamed of. And as the reality of her situation set in, Dalia saw no way out. The thought of a life without Michael, the thought of financial freedom, became a powerful temptation. Dalia's mindset was clear. She would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. She had grown accustomed to using others to achieve her goals, and now she set her sights on Michael, seeing him as expendable. This wasn't an impulsive act. It was a deliberate, calculated plot. Dalia didn't just want to be rid of her husband. She wanted to do it in the most assured and quickest way possible. Her desperation for wealth and control drove her to make a fatal choice. Instead of walking away or seeking a divorce, Dalia decided to take the most drastic action. She attempted to have her husband killed. She saw it as a shortcut to the life she craved, a life of luxury, freedom, and no more compromises. The plot she hatched was as cold as it was deadly. But what was it that truly motivated Dalia? Was it the desire for money alone, or was it deeper? A craving for control over her life, her future, and her destiny? In Dalia's mind, Michael was simply an obstacle to the life she believed she deserved. And when she couldn't get what she wanted through the relationship, she turned to a much darker solution. This mindset, driven by greed and frustration, led Dalia to make a choice that would eventually destroy everything she thought she could control. She believed she could outsmart the world, but in the end, she would learn just how wrong she was. It was 2009 when Dalia Dippolito set her deadly plan into motion. She had made up her mind. Her husband, Michael, had to die. But what makes someone go so far as to hire a hitman to take the life of someone they promised to love and cherish forever? The coldness of this decision would soon unfold, and what followed would be a betrayal so shocking, it would stun the world. Dalia's plan was deceptively simple. She believed that by eliminating Michael, she could inherit his assets and free herself from the life she so desperately wanted to escape. She had heard of people in her circles who had done similar things. People who had found ways to bypass hard work by simply removing the barriers. Michael, in Dalia's eyes, was a barrier. His past, his financial struggles, and his simple life were all just obstacles preventing her from living the high life she believed she deserved. Her choice of weapon? A man named Mohammed Shahada, who Dalia believed to be a hitman. She was willing to pay him $1,200, handing over the specifics of Michael's routine and even providing a description of his appearance. In her mind, this was a clean solution, a way out without any real consequences. Michael's death would be staged to look like a robbery gone wrong. She imagined herself living in the luxury she had always dreamed of, without a care in the world. The details seemed flawless to Dalia. She told Shahada about Michael's daily schedule, when he would be home, when he would be out running errands. She gave him everything needed for the hit to go off without a hitch, believing that the perfect crime could not fail. But what Dalia didn't know was that her hitman wasn't a criminal at all. Shahada was cooperating with the police. The entire setup was a sting operation, orchestrated by law enforcement to stop her before her plan could be carried out. Shahada, who was in on the plan, contacted the authorities and informed them about the request, which set off a chain of events that would ultimately expose Dalia's cold intentions. The police, aware of Dalia's plans, set up an elaborate sting operation. Undercover officers stepped in to play the role of the hitman. They met with Dalia, recorded her every word, and watched as she eagerly detailed the murder she thought was about to unfold. The detectives posed as hitmen, giving Dalia a sense of security that they would carry out the crime exactly as she had envisioned. The real turning point came when the police staged Michael's death. In Dalia's mind, Michael was gone. She believed her plan had worked. She had removed the obstacle from her life. But the moment she was told her husband had been killed by the hitman, Dalia's reaction was nothing short of chilling. She was not overcome with grief or shock. Instead, her response was eerily detached, an indifferent calm, as if she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. She even asked when she could expect to receive her share of the money, her eyes clouded with thoughts of a future she thought was now hers for the taking. Unbeknownst to Dalia, this was the moment that sealed her fate. The police, who had been watching from behind the scenes, moved in quickly, arresting Dalia as she walked away from the fake crime scene, still unaware of the gravity of what had just occurred. Dalia Dippolito thought she had gotten away with it. In her mind, her husband was gone, and a future of wealth and freedom was just within reach. But what Dalia didn't realize was that her every move had been recorded. The very plan she thought was foolproof had been laid bare before the eyes of law enforcement, and the details of her cold-hearted scheme would soon unravel in a way she could never have imagined. The moment Dalia was told of Michael's death, her lack of emotion was immediately captured on video. What should have been a moment of heartbreak and devastation turned into something completely different. Her indifference, her casual demeanor, and her complete absence of grief were all laid bare for the world to see. To an outsider, her reaction was one of absolute detachment. But to the police, it was a sign that she had been complicit in her husband's death. Behind the scenes, the police had been working for weeks, building a case around Dalia's plans. They had carefully orchestrated the sting operation, with undercover officers posing as hitmen. Every word Dalia had spoken to the supposed hitman was recorded, including her detailed instructions and the payment she had promised. The police had meticulously followed every step, gathering irrefutable evidence of her intentions. As Dalia walked away, believing she had executed her plan flawlessly, the police moved in to arrest her. It wasn't until she was handcuffed and confronted with the truth that she realized how wrong she had been. The man she thought was dead, Michael Dippolito, was very much alive. And the hitman she had hired? An undercover officer working with the police. At the moment of her arrest, Dalia was in complete shock. The reality of her actions had finally caught up with her. She was charged with solicitation to commit first-degree murder, and the case quickly became a media sensation. The footage of her reaction, her disinterested behavior in the face of her husband's death, played a crucial role in making this case one that would capture the public's attention. What followed was a series of legal battles. Dalia's first trial in 2011 ended in a conviction, but that was only the beginning. The case was so sensational that it was retried, and in 2017, Dalia was once again found guilty. She had been caught in a web of lies, deception, and murder for hire, and now she would pay the price for the life she had tried to steal. But the story didn't end there. Dalia's appeal efforts, including her attempts to have the conviction overturned, were all in vain. The courts remained firm in their judgment, and Dalia was sentenced to 16 years in prison for her attempt on Michael's life. The case was a stark reminder of just how far someone would go to achieve their desires, and how a well-laid plan can quickly fall apart under the weight of the truth. The aftermath of Dalia Dippolito's plot was not just a wake-up call for those directly involved. It was a jarring reminder to everyone that appearances can be deceiving, and the darkest intentions can hide behind a facade of normalcy. The impact of her crime rippled through her family, the community, and even the public who followed the case as it unfolded. For Michael Dippolito, The trauma of learning that his wife had plotted his death was something he would never fully recover from. Although Dalia's attempt was foiled, the emotional toll on Michael was profound. To have your spouse, the person you trusted most, conspire to take your life is a betrayal that is unimaginable. The emotional scars left behind were deep, and Michael had to come to terms with the fact that Dalia had never been the person he thought she was. Michael's reaction to the arrest was one of disbelief, but also relief. He had been given a second chance at life, one that he never thought he'd get. But while the physical danger had passed, the emotional fallout was something he would carry with him forever. His family, particularly his mother, was devastated by the betrayal as well. They had seen Dalia as part of their family, and now they had to process the fact that she had been plotting against them. The community, too, was rocked by the revelation. Boynton Beach, Florida, where Michael and Dalia lived, was no stranger to drama, but this crime was beyond anything anyone had expected. Dalia's cold reaction when she was told about Michael's supposed death became a point of public fascination. The footage aired on Cops showed her lack of grief, which only deepened the shock. It wasn't just a betrayal of a husband, it was a betrayal of everything the community stood for: trust, commitment, and love. As the trial proceeded, the public's opinion of Dalia quickly soured. Many people struggled to understand how someone could go so far as to plan the murder of their spouse. To the public, Dalia represented a kind of greed and entitlement that seemed almost unthinkable. The media coverage brought the case to national attention, and the story became a chilling example of how far someone could go when driven by a desire for a better life, no matter the cost. From this case, there are several key lessons that we can all take away. Dalia's plot was rooted in her insatiable desire for a life of luxury. She wanted wealth and comfort, but she didn't want to work for it. Her belief that she deserved more, despite the life she had with Michael, led her to make a decision that would cost her everything. This case is a stark reminder of how dangerous unchecked greed can be. It blinds people to the value of human life, relationships, and genuine love. Michael and Dalia's relationship from the outside seemed like a normal marriage. But behind closed doors, trust was broken long before Dalia's plot was uncovered. This case highlights the importance of open communication in relationships. If Dalia had been honest about her dissatisfaction with their life, there could have been a different outcome. But instead, she chose the path of deception and murder. In relationships, trust and honesty are the foundation. Without them, everything can crumble. The police were able to stop this crime before it happened, thanks to their quick thinking and proactive investigation. The undercover operation that revealed Dalia's plot was a testament to how law enforcement can intervene before a tragedy occurs. The case shows just how important it is for law enforcement to be vigilant, as the cost of inaction can be a life lost. Dalia's case also served as a reminder that the public's perception of a person can change in an instant. Once a respected member of her community, Dalia became a symbol of betrayal, greed, and manipulation. Her actions led to her own downfall, but they also shattered the trust that many people had in her. Her story serves as a cautionary tale for those who might think they can hide behind a facade of normalcy while plotting something much darker. In the end, Dalia Dippolito's attempt to take a shortcut to the life she wanted didn't just lead to the destruction of her marriage. It led to her own ruin. Her story is a chilling example of how the desire for wealth and control can drive someone to take extreme and deadly actions. And while Michael may have escaped death, the emotional toll of what happened will remain with him forever. Now that you've heard the chilling details of Dalia Dippolito's twisted plan, I want to hear from you. What do you think about her actions? Could anyone really go so far for wealth and power? How do you feel about the lengths she was willing to go to in order to achieve her dreams? Was Dalia's crime something you could have ever predicted, or does it leave you questioning how deep someone's desire for a better life can truly go? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think justice was served, or do you think her sentence was too harsh? What lessons do you think we can learn from this shocking case? If you found this story as chilling and thought-provoking as we did, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on more gripping true crime stories like this one. And remember, the truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. So stay tuned for our next case, where we'll unravel another chilling story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.